good times. Today I have a very special guest. He's a UFC coach, ex-professional bull rider. Justin Adams, say what's up.
What's up, guys? How is everybody?
So, first of all, I appreciate you for inviting me down here to Texas.
Absolutely.
It was like to me, it's a good feeling. It's an opportunity, you know.
Texas is cool. A lot of cool people. There's a lot of people that we can come across while we're down here. We got a lot of stuff scheduled for you.
You guys definitely got a lot more like movement as far as like just every aspect compared to Virginia. We don't really have too much going on out there.
No?
Especially in the MMA scene. There's not really an MMA scene out there in Virginia.
That sucks.
Yeah.
That's wild. Yeah, you need to have everybody needs to punch something and get punched every once in a while.
Yeah, I mean
it's important.
Yeah.
More than you realize. You need to get punched and you need to punch people.
Some people have never been punched in the face before, you can tell.
Yeah, and it changes the whole way they look at the world. A lot more kids need to be in fights. There needs to be more of that goes on.
Especially in this generation. I see a lot more. Cause it's like,
old?
You're 45?
42.
42, okay. I didn't think I was shooting.
I'm old.
But, were you born and raised here in Texas?
No, I'm originally from New Mexico.
New Mexico, okay.
Mm-hmm. My little town called Cloudcroft. It's about 500 people.
500 people?
No stoplights. Kind of place you don't lose your girlfriend, you lose your turn.
Okay.
And I ended up here. I was rodeoing. There are more rodeos here than there were in New Mexico. And so I ended up moving this way. My family owns a little ski resort there called Ski Cloudcroft.
Okay.
So they're still back there. But yeah, I came out here probably 20 years ago.
Okay, so you were about 22?
Mm-hmm. I was in my early 20s and rodeoed some, did some oil field work. Noticed all the Brazilians were beating us riding bulls, and they all had jiu-jitsu backgrounds. So lucked out where I found Travis Lutter's jiu-jitsu gym and hit it off with him, and here we are. So
when you moved here, did you already have plans of being in the MMA scene, or
had no idea what it was going to be like? I don't think I watched UFC until I was here. In fact, it was right down the street. I went and watched a Chuck Liddell versus Babalu pay-per-view event. Okay. And got caught up in it then.
And that was a UFC fight here in Texas.
It wasn't in Texas. I just watched it on a TV at one of the bars.
Okay.
It's kind of cool.
Uh-huh. So, when you were a professional bull rider, how long were you a bull rider for?
I rode bulls from when I was 12 up until probably 7 years ago.
Okay. You told me, you didn't tell me, but I saw on the podcast, you got injured, right?
Yeah, I've had a lot of those. I got knocked out by a bull. I was in a coma for 4 days. Oh. I ruptured my pancreas and spent about a month in the hospital when I was young. I think I was 12, 13. I've had all sorts of stitches, broken stuff, things that don't work right. No casted broken bones. Okay. But everything hurts.
What has been like a memorable story you have while bull riding? Maybe a bad hit you took, or just an embarrassing moment in front of everybody?
Shoot, let's see. I was in northwestern Colorado at an event, and this bull kicked, and they call it getting jerked down, but I was catapulted. My head hit this bull's head, and it knocked me out and split my eyebrow open. Damn. My buddy that I had driven up there with, he ended up winning the event. And he had to go pick up his money and go do the award ceremony and go to the bar and everything. So rather than go to the hospital and get stitches in my eyebrow, he just took me to the gas station, bought some maxi pads and duct tape.
Called it there.
Slapped a maxi pad on my face, duct taped me out, and off we went to the bar so we could get paid. And, it was one of those deals where it wasn't that cool because the wings on the maxi pad kept me from being able to see. But it's all right, I'm used to it now.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
In Mexico, my family's Mexican. I've been out there a few times. In the small town we're from, they have a thing. It's like a Mexican rodeo. It's called jaripeos.
Yep. So
I've been to a few of those before.
Wild.
They do get wild.
One of the guys that trains with us here, he's from Mexico. I think he's an 8-time PBR Mexico champ. He's the most accomplished bull rider coming from Mexico.
Oh, really?
And he's a brown belt with us here, Francisco Morales.
Okay.
And yeah, Frankie's a big deal down there, and it looks like a good time. I never got to go. I got offered spots to go compete in Mexico at the PBRs,
Mhm.
and I didn't go.
How
I
come?
wish I would have.
Was it just something? Was it on your mind at the
I
time?
was younger, and
Uh-huh.
I could go win more money, I thought, here in the States and spend less to get there, and
Yeah.
so I didn't take him up on it, but I wish I would have now.
You know,
It'd be fun.
at that time, did you think that was what you were gonna make a living on?
Yeah.
Really?
That's what my goal was, my focus was, and it's a lot harder to make a living for me doing that than a lot of other things.
Yeah.
I was good in New Mexico. I was not good when I got out here with everybody else. I was good. I was one of the best guys going down the road in New Mexico at that time.
Uh-huh.
And I came to Texas, and so many more people and everything here that I was average at best here.
You know, so coming from bull riding, what was like, I don't know the exact moment you really got your foot wet in the MMA scene with Travis Lutter or Kevin Holland? Was it a certain day or an opportunity that came about?
So when I started doing jiu-jitsu here with Travis, I never thought I was going to fight,
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I had no plans to or anything until this tall, skinny black kid from California showed up and was crazy athletic. And it turned out to be Kevin.
Uh-huh.
And I would hire Kev. I would pay Kevin, think about this for a second. I would pay Kevin Holland $40 an hour to do striking sessions with me 2 times a week. Right?
So for him to train you or you to train him?
For him to train me, because I didn't know. We were, the same belt level of jiu-jitsu. He was a good kid that you could tell was super athletic and had potential. And I knew that he wasn't making a lot of money doing what he was doing. So I started hiring him to help me because I wanted to get better at striking anyway.
Uh-huh.
And you think back about that, it's a pretty cool concept to be able to hire Kevin Holland for $40 an hour to teach you how to strike. And I started sponsoring him for fights and helping him out, and he's helping me with stuff. And next thing I know, he called me and he said, "Hey, I got a fight scheduled for you. It's in 6 weeks. You're fighting at 155. And I was like, I guess I'm fighting now.
Yeah.
And it was against Anthony Ivy, who is, I think he's on a 6-fight win streak. He was in the UFC at 185.
Okay.
So he was huge.
So at the time when you fought him, he had already been in the UFC previously?
We were both debut guys. We
Okay.
debuted against each other. And, that was, I don't even know what year that was.
How did that fight go?
I won the first round.
Uh-huh.
Thought I had him finished. I had his back. They called him Aquaman after we were done because he must have gills. Because I had pictures where I have the choke sunk in, locked in.
Yeah.
I have his back, and I'm just, I at one point even turned to the ref and said, "I think he's tapping." And the ref's like, "No." And
he's good.
He survived it, and I gasped my arms out. He's considerably bigger than I was then.
Yeah.
I think he's 6'3". He's bigger than Kev.
Okay.
And for the next 2 rounds, he won the next 2 rounds. I was gassed out. I was so tired. I remember at one point I was on my hands and knees, and he was on top of me just punching the shit out of me. And I could hear my coach saying that I had to stand up. And I remember sitting there thinking, okay, I could stand up or I could keep getting hit in the head.
Yeah.
Standing up sounds more exhausting. I think I'll stay right here.
So a lot of fighters do that. They stay on the ground to like catch their breath, right?
Yeah, I never caught my breath, but
okay, yeah, because sometimes when your opponent when they're on top of you, they have their weight pushing down on you. It makes it hard for you to breathe, right?
It sucks. You got to carry both guys' weight, but it's better. Sometimes it feels better for me to catch my breath and rest there than standing and trying to move away from a guy with an 80-inch reach. I wasn't enjoying that part.
What was your amateur record?
I ended up 3-1.
3-1. So how come you only fought 4 times?
I detached my retina when I was blind in this. I had a title fight scheduled against Hunter Azur, who's in the UFC at 135. That's how big a weight fluctuation. My first guy I fought was got into UFC at 185, and the last guy I was scheduled to fight is in the UFC at 135.
That's a big. So you were kind of like bouncing between lower.
I fought 155, and the reality is I was one of the smallest 155ers you could find. I'm legitimately, frame wise, I'm built to be a 135 or 135 tops.
Okay. How did you go from Kevin Holland training you to you training him? When did that opportunity come about?
The thing with Kev and I is I can't teach Kevin anything about fighting he doesn't already know.
Okay.
But I keep things fun. I keep things exciting, like lighthearted. We're not causing trouble. We're having a good time. I keep him in a positive mindset.
Yeah.
I know I've been friends with him. We've been close for, however long it is now. What is he? He's 31. So yeah, at least 15 years.
Okay.
And I know how to get him in good mindsets and keep him feeling like he's Superman. That's a huge part of it. Because when you're somebody as talented as he is anyway, that knows what he knows about fighting, sometimes he just needs to be reminded how to go back to a mindset when he was, performing at his peak. So
yeah,
that's more my thing than anything. I run through basics and scenarios, and we identify things. And I mean, I know a ton about fighting, but it's kind of like I couldn't tell Travis Lutter one thing about jiu-jitsu that he doesn't know.
So I guess, like, you don't really play too much of a physical aspect to him, but more like on a mental aspect.
Yeah, in the same breath, anybody who's been in the corner with us knows fight week is beat the shit out of cowboy week. Mm-hmm. Kev, I'm usually a dummy. Like at one point I forgot who we fought. We were in the locker room with Gregory Rodriguez and his team, Violent Obama.
Okay.
And the fights were all going on the screen, and Kev's warming up, and he's just beating the shit out of me. Enough that when he steps off, when we're done warming up, Gregory Rodriguez and his team were watching the fights, and they were watching us the whole time. And he goes, "Hey, come here. Are you okay?"
Yeah.
Like, I felt like an abused housewife.
So you were kind of like his punching dummy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's better now because he's he's a little lighter on me now. We don't have to go quite so hard. But yeah, for a long time, that was always the joke. Travis would always make fun of the fact that I was there to be a punching bag that week.
Hey, but I mean, that's still like a good role. You're still with
it's a shit role.
Yeah.
It's a terrible role getting punched by that man.
Would you rather be punched by a random man or by your boy,
I don't want to get punched by anybody.
That's true.
The thing about it is, if a random man punches me, I would probably kick his ass.
Yeah.
I cannot kick Kevin's ass at all.
Have you ever seriously tried?
Oh, every time I go against him. You wait and see. When we have rounds, he and I will go here in a little while. It is a nonstop. Like, I fight Kevin, and Kevin trains.
Yeah.
I'm in a legit fight the whole time.
You got to challenge him, right?
I'll bite him, but that's why we always go well together, is because we have good rounds.
Yeah.
But it's because I'm not trying to be a chicken shit about it. I'm going to attack him, and if I can catch him, I'm going to catch him.
I
can't catch him.
One question I have for you, because when I was down in Miami for 299, that was the first UFC fight I've ever been to.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so like the atmosphere and everything is way different in person than on TV. And one thing I really noticed, a big difference is like you can't hear the commentators in person.
Yeah.
And so, but like just the atmosphere of being there, seeing the fighters in person, and seeing all these, you could say, celebrities or people in the MMA world. What was it like for you seeing everybody for the first time? Maybe the first time you met Dana, the first time you met certain UFC fighters. Was it like?
Yeah, I mean, for me, usually, especially showing up with Kev and being around Trav as much as I have and everything.
Yeah.
It wasn't as big a deal. It was more so like I was excited to show off what our guy could do,
Okay.
I was like, you watch enough of him where you're like, I'm pretty sure Kev would like that dude up when he was younger, before we got up there. Now we're at a point where he's getting to prove that he can. And running with Travis too, it's like Travis is one of the scariest human beings alive. Like, he will murder you without feeling bad. Such a nice dude.
Yesterday I was talking to him. He seems like very calm and almost a little bit quiet, but you can tell he has that killer in him.
Yeah, he's German as it gets.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a scary human, but such a nice guy. And for me, always, it's like, we would go somewhere. Beijing was my first, I think after the Contender Series, I went with Kev to Beijing when he fought John Phillips.
Okay.
And, I got out there and we run into Forrest Griffin, and Forrest beelines for Travis and wants to get to visit with Travis, right? Mm-hmm. And then the times that I've been to these other, all these other fights, meet these other people, it's all like, they've been excited to meet my friends.
Yeah.
As much as I'm excited to meet these guys,
Yeah.
And nearly everybody I've come across at UFC events has been cool. From, I get along great with the staff there, with Dana and everybody, Hunter. Everybody is awesome. Mick and Sean. and then the other coaches, I've always had a great back and forth with them. Occasionally you'll get fighters. They're a little bit, rub you the wrong way or a little eccentric. We've had some scuffles.
Yeah, I remember you were telling me about that.
Man. But I think, especially now that everybody recognizes the fact that, hey, Kev's not going to start it, but Kev will hold you to it and he'll finish it. So, when these guys say, hey, it's on site,
they better show.
I got to get you before you get me. I saw you first. Yeah. And it's kind of nice because more people are excited to meet Kev now. I remember being at one of the Apex fights.
Okay.
And Bobby Green was over chatting with Kev and I at the weigh-ins. And Sean Strickland came all the way over.
Okay.
And he interrupted everybody and he was like, hey man, I just wanted to tell you I'm a fan. And Sean, if you ever watch this, you know what happened. And there was nothing wrong with it, nothing bad about it. It was cool. But he was excited to meet Kev.
Okay.
And him and Kev have trained together, had scuffles. It's one of those things where I imagine they're kind of like, they're those cousins that fight, but hang out, but fight and hang out. I think that could probably be what it would end up with. And they could fight in the future, who knows? But it's like everybody kind of gravitates towards Kev. He's the fun and exciting guy to be around. He's always in a good mood. I watched him sword fight Thiago Santos with his fight posters at weigh-ins just because he was bored.
I guess with you guys interacting with fighters is one thing, but it also because of the problem you guys interact with fans. Because I remember when Kev was out, when you guys were outside of the Miami arena, you remember that guy that hugged Kevin, and Kevin was like, "Yo, don't touch me."
Well, and Kev's got a good point there. He's been that way for a long time for good reason. Everybody starts touching, rubbing up on you. There's primarily, like you just saw with COVID, they had a little bubble with everybody. He doesn't want to get sick and fall out. This is how he does his job.
Okay, yeah.
So it's like we got all these random guys that we don't know. They're drunk. We don't know what's going on. They want to, he makes a good point. Well, you want to hug up on me for a picture, right?
Yeah.
And he kind of makes fun of it. But there was a guy in Austin that Kev said, yeah, I'll take a picture. Like, don't touch me, though. Like, let's just do the fighter pose, whatever. Don't touch me.
Didn't he slap his butt or something?
And the guy grabs his ass.
Yeah, what?
And I get it. Like, I'm with Kev. All right.
Yeah.
If that had happened to a woman, that guy would be in jail.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like, people online, sometimes these guys, fans in general, they get excited, but sometimes they forget about, these guys are people, too. And
yeah, because I guess, like, as a fan point of view, it's kind of hard for us to remember. Well, not to remember. It's just like, I guess it's almost like a delusion. So we see these, like, we see guys like that as celebrities or people, but we forget that, like you said, they're people at the end of the day.
Well, and what I like, it's happened a couple of events now where we show up and Kev, like, we'll go to the Q&A or ceremonial weigh-ins, wherever there's a crowd that gathers, right? Yeah. And I swear it's on purpose, but Kev he'll make sure he misses the bus with the rest of the fighters, right?
Okay.
And then, like, Miami, we walked in through the front with all the fans. He, that's a cool experience for the fans.
Oh, yeah.
To have the guy that's on the billboard walking through the stands, meeting you, taking pictures.
Yeah.
The other guys don't do this. Likewise, when we left, we walked back to the hotel. It was, a few blocks. Mm-hmm. But we walked back, and he walked right out with all the fans, taking pictures and everything, walking down the sidewalk, cars stopping on the side of the road and everything, yelling at him, taking pictures. I watched him. The car pulled up at the crosswalk, and they were yelling, wanting to take pictures. So Kev opened the back door, climbed in the back seat, shot a video with him, climbed out the other side, and walked through. And that's cool fan interaction.
Yeah.
Don't ruin that by being handsy,
Yeah, does that ever, not exactly scary, but worry you that there could be a chance that, all it takes is that one person having a real bad day, or he would have a worse day if he tried to mess with Kevin, but like, things always happen. He could maybe injure Kevin before the fight. Is that ever a possibility?
I'm not too worried about them doing anything to Kev. And Kev's a businessman at the end of the day. Yeah. He understands, okay, if I beat this guy up right now, there's a great chance I'm going to get sued or whatever. So he's, it's hard. He knows how to get that boundary, and he's pretty sharp when it comes to talking shit and making somebody feel stupid in front of everyone enough to where they go away.
Oh my bad, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. The times that we have had things could crack off or get unruly where I get nervous. And Elliot Lowenstein and some of the other security guys at the UFC will back me on this. It's like, usually everything's good. If it gets too heated and one of us gets in between Kev and whoever it is, then that's usually time when it's like, okay, we're not talking shit anymore. Let's split this up. But up until then, most of the time, it's just let them talk, and it's good views.
What has you being a part of Kevin's team, Terrence's team, what has being a coach taught you the most?
Oh my gosh, this is really cool because of the fact that I get to do all the fun stuff they're doing without getting punched in the face.
Yeah.
That's a win.
Yeah.
Realistically, though, everybody's different. It's like my amateur guys need different things than my UFC guys. It's cool, when we had Randa Marcos, how just committed and compartmentalized she was. Terrence trying to kind of figure out what works for him and how to get him in a good mode.
Yeah.
Kevin, the same way, like figuring out how to get your fighter in the best mindset. That's something that's reading people, that's figuring out how to be a good leader, a good manager, is to get the most out of whoever it is you're working with.
What do you think separates you from maybe other coaches, from other fighters, or just other coaches in general?
They're taller.
Okay. I mean, that's one thing, I guess.
It's weird. I get along with so many of them. Eric Nixick at Extreme, Danny Castillo and Uriah over at Alpha Male, and Chris Holsworth, Joey Rodriguez, that whole crew. Crew Bob Perez down in Houston at Main Street, which Bob's amazing. He, seeing how Travis coaches everyone here at the gym, it's just, it's good for me having competed in the rodeo world and in the fight scene, because I can identify with where each one of these guys are, competitors are, and I can help. It can manifest its way to fulfilling what it is that they're going through at the moment.
Okay.
I know you're stressed, so let's circle you back around and remind you of a time that you overcame whatever it is that's stressing you and make you feel like champ. Or, this person, I can tell, I remember I had this gut feeling where I think I know what you're going through, and let me reassure you here. And little things like that stepping in. I think at this point I've probably coached more fights in the UFC than out of the UFC, which is a pretty cool fact.
In UFC compared to out of UFC?
I think so, probably. And that's kind of cool. I think I'm on fight 26 or 27 in the UFC now.
Okay, yeah.
And that's a pretty cool stat for a guy coming from a town with no stoplights.
Yeah, from the town of 500 people to a stadium of 50,000 people.
It's crazy. Those places get loud too.
Out of those 26, 27 fights, what's been like some of your most memorable standout moments in those fights?
Let's see.
7-second KO.
Kevin knocking out Jacare from his back.
Okay.
Was pretty freaking cool. How loud the stadium got when Kev fought Shemaev. How loud it got positively for Kevin. Everybody loved Kev.
Yeah.
And how it sounded like there was just nobody was on Shemaev's side. He was the villain for sure.
Yeah.
And then fight week in Salt Lake City this year was just cool. Salt Lake City was quiet enough. There wasn't, the fans were respectful. They stayed out in the hotel lobby, out in the parking lot. They were all genuine and cool. It's not like it was a wild party scene.
Yeah.
We didn't have a real scuffle with anybody. I think Bobby Green maybe.
Okay.
But I had, Kev had one of the best performances he ever had when he choked out Chiesa. Derrick Lewis, we worked with him and Bob down there a bunch, and Derrick had one of the coolest performances right after Kev. And it was fun because it was just like having Derrick and Bob there with Hollywood and Larry, and then Kev there, and us all kind of everybody meshing. I had, great interactions with Mick Maynard, everybody out there. Faber, we all just had a blast. Nobody had any arguments. It was just a good weekend. That was one that if Trav would have been there, would have just topped it all off. Yeah.
And you were just with all of them couple days ago, right? Yeah.
We went down to help Derrick get ready for his fight and do some jiu-jitsu, and had taken him a pig.
Yeah.
Derrick's got a couple of pigs that we've taken him now, and he's got pork Malone and Piggy Elliott.
I feel like they're just future Thanksgiving dinners.
He loves those damn things.
Yeah,
Pork Malone's got a mohawk on him, and Derrick loves that damn thing. Yeah. Keep an eye out on his. I'm sure he'll do an Instagram story or something soon. And I'll bet later this year he's going to have an Instagram story or post with a hell of a lot of little baby pigs because
they won't have kids.
Oh yeah.
Okay. You know what you're talking about. You know, you went to different cities and how your experience was there. What's like your favorite city or country you've been to for a fight?
For a fight, Salt Lake was really cool just because it wasn't as like fast paced.
Okay.
I liked when we fought in Austin, but Austin's weird. Beijing was cool to go do that once, but
not again.
Kevin he fought at 185 then. We usually would cut him from about 196 to get to 185. In the morning of weigh-ins, the food was so bad over there. It was during Thanksgiving. The food was so bad that I checked on Kev. I lost 8 pounds over 5 days.
And you weren't even trying to?
And I wasn't. And so when we went to weigh-ins, I called him the morning of weigh-ins because we hadn't even started cutting yet. We had about 6 hours to go, but I was like, hey, what is your weight? Do we need to cut it all?
Yeah.
And he was 183.
183.
And so he lost 13 pounds.
Yeah.
And the closest we came to a World War III, I think, while we were in China was when, they wouldn't bring Kev ketchup for his eggs in the morning. And it pushed him past the break point.
Yeah.
And he followed the waiter in to the kitchen to get ketchup and he put his arm across the doorway and wouldn't let anybody out to go take food to people until he got his ketchup because we literally got ignored for ketchup for a good hour and 15 minutes.
They had it, they just didn't want to give it to him because they said because they're not in America, right?
I don't know what it was exactly. There's so many people and so many waiters, but nobody cared to help. Yeah. And you were just like, Kev finally lost his shit. And I was with him. There was because that was the restaurant in the hotel lobby. And so we went, I have it on my Facebook, and we ordered bacon cheeseburgers.
Okay.
And an hour went by and they bring us, it looked like a bacon cheeseburger, except there was no burger. It was just lettuce, tomatoes, onion, 3 strips of bacon, some cheese, and buns. And it's like, where's the burger? And the guy goes, oh, that's what you wanted. It's like, no, that's not what I wanted. I need a hamburger patty that goes on it. So they went to the back, and another hour goes by, and they come out with a hockey puck-looking chunk of black meat.
Jesus.
And I cut it open, and it was the same color as your laptop on the inside. It was gray. And I told Kev, I was like, let's not eat that.
Yeah.
And it's on my Facebook story somewhere. It was tough out there. We about starved to death.
That might not have even been a cow. That could have been.
Who knows what that was?
Dog or cat. Who knows? You know, do you guys usually go to casinos after fights when you guys are out there? Maybe Vegas or?
Not really. It's kind of one of those deals where, when you win, you go back immediately. You do medical. You do your pictures. You do the press conference. Then we're all pretty tired. And the way we book it, we've been out wherever it is since that Tuesday. A lot of intensity. Come that point, we might grab a snack or something.
Yeah.
But we usually go back to the room. It's about midnight or so.
Yeah.
Kind of decompress for an hour and chit chat, talk about the fight. Pack our bags, and we're usually on a flight home by about 5 or 6 in the morning.
Oh, so it's the same day you guys have to come back?
We don't have to, but we like it that way because we all got families and we've been away from them. And, winning, like fighting in general, it's not when you win, when you lose, it sucks. Everything sucks. You don't get the phone calls. Nobody's, it just sucks. When you win, it's not necessarily like you're not excited, happy, you're relieved. It's like, you went through, you did what you were supposed to do, and you kind of are just like, just exhausted. You're relieved. So you just kind of want to go home and hang with the family, and so for all of us, it's good to come home early Sunday, spend the day with family, a couple days the next week, and then get back at it.
But when you guys come back, let's just say you came back from Kevin Holland fight, right? Whether it was out of state or anywhere, Kevin might take a break, but you still continue teaching classes and working with other fighters, right?
Yep, I got to jump back in still, because we got obligations to these other guys. Hunt fights tonight, but next week we'll be back on it because I got another guy. I got guys fighting in May, and just got to keep working. Fine. So for me, and that's so when Derrick fights, Derrick comes home, he'll take a week to 2 weeks and just not show up because I get it, right?
Yeah.
Go see your family because fight camp's tough, and especially that last week leading into the fight, it's stress, it's media obligations, training, making sure we're on weight. There's
autographs.
There's all this stuff that goes into it where you're just like, it's a lot.
You think, I don't mean to cut you off, but do you think that like kind of throws off their mental game for the fight? Just having to do all the extra stuff instead of maybe doing some extra light training or something?
It's a lot of, because your mind's constantly going.
Okay.
And you're cutting weight. Some of these guys cut 15, 20, 25 pounds throughout the week, whatever. And so they're stressed. They're going to get into a fight in front of the entire world. They're hungry. They're tired. They're hitting that last little stretch, where it's like everything is irritating.
Okay.
You got to answer the same questions for media and everything. It just gets so
repetitive.
Yeah, so most of the time it's like you add in extra media obligations for co-main or main event.
Yeah.
And it's funny how many of the guys that you would think would love that, right? Headlining a card and all, that are just kind of like, this sucks.
You think it's because they're already so big, they are so used to it, but maybe for the up and coming other fighters, they find it so like, it's new to them. They find it amazing.
It's a lot of extra stress for them too. We laughed in Salt Lake because I think we were might have been at the ceremonial weigh-ins.
Okay.
And yeah, because Wonder Boy did not accept the Michel Pereira fight. He turned it down because Michel was like 7 pounds over. Right?
Oh, damn.
I think is what it was.
Okay.
And we're not we're good with both of those guys. Wonder Boy is our buddy, and so is Michel. But it was unfortunate. So what they ended up doing was we were sitting right next to Derrick and Bob. Kevin and I were at the ceremonial weigh-ins in the stands waiting to get called down, and the staff came up and said, "Hey, the Wonder Boy fight's not going to happen. We want to take Derrick off headlining the prelims and move him to right below the." I don't remember if it was co-main or main event. But it was so funny because they came, and that would usually be good news, right?
Yeah.
Move you from prelims up to a main feature bout.
Yeah.
A main card feature bout. And Derrick goes, fuck.
Well, how come?
Because he was excited about getting done with the fight
early, yeah,
and just relaxing for the rest of the night. And he's like, man. And then, even right now, he headlines the May 11th card.
I seen, yeah.
He just wants to fight. Man, he just wants to. Kev's the same way. Like, that was one of the things Kev wanted to do on one of these cards. He was joking with Mick Maynard, and he said, I'll fight Sean Strickland at 185. But I want to be the first fight of the night on the prelims so I can go watch the fights and hang out for the rest of the night. I don't want to be in.
So that's one question I had. When you guys fight, you guys are not allowed to watch the cards before or after? Or
we are.
In person?
So usually in the locker rooms, they'll have a TV up and you can watch all the fights that are going on.
Yeah.
See what's happening. And then before COVID, they had a green room where after the fight, there was tons of food, like buffet style food, and a bunch of TVs, and all the fighters would get cleaned up, go watch the rest of the fight. Since COVID, they've stopped that. Okay. So for us, I mean, I've never watched, since we've gotten in, I haven't watched a whole lot of our fights after the fact.
Okay.
I do know what goes on the card because we're either watching it up to our fight or hearing about it at the hotel, but I don't think I watched the rest of a card after us.
So, like, in Miami, you guys going to stay to watch the Poirier fight or the Madden fight?
No, they take you and put you on a bus and get you back to the room, and then we started packing bags, and getting ready to leave.
Yeah. You know, what's up? Do you have an untold story that you've never shared publicly?
I'm sure I do. I have a lot of those.
Yeah.
But I do have a good Theo Vaughn one. So Miami, we were walking through the back after we beat up Ponzinibbio.
Okay.
And Theo Vaughn is standing there. So I stop and I'm chatting with Theo and I said, let's get a picture. So we take a picture. And I told him, I said, man, I rodeoed before I got into all this. I rode bulls. And he's like, man, that's crazy. I said, yeah, I put Kevin on some bulls back in the day, actually, before the UFC. And he goes, no way. How did he? And this is like exactly how Theo does it. He goes, oh, how did he probably did, pretty good. And I said, no, he did terrible. And Theo goes, oh, that makes sense. You don't see a whole lot of, them at rodeos. And I was like,
Theo Vaughn's funny. He's always like very like edgy with his jokes.
He's so funny. And then we got to meet Steve-O and Kev, I think 100%. Kev would 100% fit in Jackass with Steve-O. Those two just linked up and palled out. And I thought that was cool. It was a lot of fun.
I love Theo Vaughn. I watch his podcast all the time. We just did one with Dustin.
Did he?
Yeah.
We need to see if we can get on there. That's what we'll do. That would be fun.
That would be. I would watch that one. Like I watch all of them, but I would watch that one. Like sit down, popcorn, everything. Watch that one.
We'll make that happen. That would be cool. So we all know about Kev at weigh-ins in the Vettori fight, stepping off the scale and going over to Vettori's station there and taking his breadsticks and eating them in front of him. Just to kind of rub it in that, steal the man's food right after he's done weighing in. A good one would be, not a lot of people know this, but when Kev was on the Contender Series, he had TKO'd Jeff Neal at ex-Cato, and then he had done, I think, one or two other fights. I think Bellator. He beat up a guy in Bellator, his one fight there, and then got the call for Contender and everything.
Okay.
So when we were at the Contender Series, not many people know this, but Kev's, nobody really knows him. And he had on a sponsor shirt, and he was walking through the overhang at the Palms, and Nick Diaz got out of a truck, an Uber or a taxi or whatever. Anyway, Nick was sponsored by the same guys that Kev was on his shirt. And so Nick said something about, hey, those are my sponsors. He was not in his right mind. He looked like he was a little bit, off his rocker. Yeah. Kind of Nick. He looked like he was Nick.
Okay.
He's like, those are my sponsors. He's like, take that shit off. And Kev was kind of jawing him back and forth. And next thing you know, Nick like kind of threw a lazy ass jab and went to body lock him just to start a scuffle. And so Kev clinched him and started swinging him around and tossed him aside and said, hey, we can't fight here. I got a contract to get. Like, I got to get in there first, and then we'll fight later on. And so he told me after, he said, I can't believe how easy. He said, that guy is supposed to be a stud in the UFC. And he said, I can't believe how easy I moved him around. He's weak. And so that's something that when you're a guy getting in the big show and you kind of can move around and ruffle up one of the guys that's a legend, it's a good feeling.
It speaks something,
And no, we've got stories for days.
I bet.
Being
around that many fighters at that many events, I'm sure you see a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, when Masvidal tried to rush Kev and I after weigh-ins out on the pier in Miami and then let his crew catch up to him and hold him back. There's a lot of good stories. Yeah. There's a lot of stories that Kev and Adesanya almost fought right next to the pool in the COVID fighter hotel in Vegas with Danny Castillo, me, Suge, and Rashad Evans were the only ones there.
Okay.
There's so many good scuffle stories.
So far, we're in April. What do you think has been the fight of the year so far? And it could be 1 or 2 or 3.
We're in April. Let's see. Gotta love Poirier's comeback with Saint Denis. That's a tough fight. It was good for him.
That was probably one of the best moments of that night.
I think so.
The crowd erupted.
It's hard for me to think back about too many more. It seems like there's so many fights now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully the fight of the year will be tonight when Hunt gets his win.
Yeah.
Regionally. We'll take that.
You know, he's the first fight on the main card, right?
I think so.
Yeah. You know, what's been like your favorite fight that you watched of all time, either in person or just on the TV?
For just pure,
You have a personal attachment to it, just your personal favorite.
I would say, you know, the way that back when he was an amateur, Kev and I went to, or you know, when the amateur, he was a pro, but it was his second pro fight. He booked a fight in Laredo, Texas, right on the border.
Uh-huh.
And it was just he and I in the corner. Yeah, I cornered him, and I was the only guy. And his mom went with us just because he was a kid,
yeah.
You know? And we got down there, and he was fighting a kid, Aaron Reeves. I think Aaron Reeves was 3-0, something like that. And he, I think he won that fight in 23 seconds. He stepped out, caught the kid with the right, knocked him out, hit him again, it woke him back up. And then he jumped on him and hit him with, I think it was a standing guillotine.
Okay.
And choked him out. So Kev basically beat him twice in 23 seconds.
First knockout in the guillotine.
Mm-hmm. And it was one of those deals where before, we were pretty early in the fight card, and all the older established guys were kind of, I remember one guy was telling Kev he was too big for, you know, he's being a little too arrogant, too cocky, too confident. And he said, you don't know what it's like in the big show. And then Kev just demolishes that guy. And that same older fighter came up to him and said, Mr. Trailblazer, could we get a picture together for when you're famous?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So he already had that nickname back then too?
He's done a great job branding himself from day one. He's always been Trailblazer. Trailblazer, Dana called him Big Mouth. So
Big Mouth.
You'll see a lot of his stuff is TBBM, Trailblazer Big Mouth. Also stands for the best business moves. Like Kev's a brand, like he's good at the branding thing. He's on that. He's a businessman.
You know, speaking about, you know, like him, they call him a Big Mouth. They also called MVP, like, because MVP is always talking in his fights as well. I feel like that was very interesting first matchup for MVP, because it was like, I'm not saying they have similar fighting styles, but they have like very similar fighting personalities.
Yeah. And honestly, that was a night where we were off. We weren't on at all. We were off, and Venom had a great night. It is what it is. You know, congratulations to him. Ain't nobody mad about it. He was a lot more evasive than we thought he was going to be, and he was slippery, hard to keep a hold of on the ground, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
It was a good test for him, and it was great for Venom's career. You know, come in and it actually showed validity, and he, you know, Kev's as legit as it comes, so Venom can fight.
Yeah.
So I think it was a tall order, and the cool part is now there's so many fun fights for Kev right now between 70 or if we go to 85. I mean, who wouldn't want to watch Kev versus Strickland at 85?
Oh, yeah.
You know, we come in and fight. I'd love to see, you know, Buckley talks, but now Buckley, it's a reality. We could do a Buckley fight again if we wanted. And he's quiet about it. You know, I'd love to see Kev and Gilbert Burns. I'd love to see. There's so many good fights for that kid.
Yeah, any person you really throw him will be an interesting matchup.
He's kind of got the new role of the Donald Cerrone where he steps in and beats up. You know, he's short notice. He's down to fight anybody. He's fun. He's exciting. People like watching him, like interacting with him. It's like, yeah, take that role and let's go fight some fun fights. Fight some legends. Fight some, like, and it doesn't take that much. Kev's always, you know, a couple wins away from a belt if he wants it. I think.
What's he ranked right now? Number 14, right?
I think he is.
Or 13?
But he should be ranked in both 70 and 85. I don't know if they've kept his 85
okay.
ranking. He should be. I mean, he could step right back in at 85 at any moment, and you know, he had probably more finishes and you know, for a little guy, he was a little guy at 85. He was walking in the cage at 196, and then you had guys like Vittori that walk in 211, 212. Duran Wynn was 217. You know.
You know, are you guys about to...
You're good.
Okay, I don't want to take too much of your time. I got last, like, 3 questions. You know, what's been like something that someone has told you, whether it was a role model or someone you looked up to, that really stuck with you for the rest of your life?
I was with Bob Perez. We were at the Fighter Hotel hanging out. And we were sitting under the cabana. Everybody knows the cabana I'm talking about there. And Bob and I are just bullshitting, and Khabib and Islam walked past us. And then Khabib turned around and came all the way back, and Islam came with him. And he shook hands with both of us and, you know, interacted. Hey, coach, how you guys doing? Everything. But for me, that was cool because it's like, Khabib's a fucking stud.
Oh, yeah.
And for him to recognize, hey, you know, I've been around enough to be recognized by something like that as my role. Because the interactions I've had with him always have been good. But that was kind of confirming, and, you know, this is cool. Yeah. Likewise, I've been, you know, we've all been Faber fans since the WEC days, right? Faber's just cool. I've gotten to be good friends with him. Okay. And a bunch of the guys at Alpha Male they're just good dudes. Yeah. And Faber telling me, we talked about it in Miami, and then we messaged back and forth quite a bit about it over the last couple weeks. Faber confirming that he's going to add me in. I'm going to be doing combat jiu-jitsu matches on his cards coming up for his promotion. Yeah. It's a cool feeling for a kid from a town with no stoplights, right? That didn't get started in this stuff till I was in my 20s anyway. That's
a crazy comparison. Did you ever think you'd be doing this? No, right?
No, I've been lucky. When I left that town in New Mexico, I was a rodeo kid. Yeah. And I worked my way up to where I was involved in the biggest events in the world. Yeah. With the biggest promotion, and, you know, friends with the biggest stars, and networked well, and just fit in there. And then I got out of that. That would usually be enough for one lifetime for somebody coming from, you know, a tiny town. Yeah. I've worked my way in with some big players in gas and oil stuff. I worked my way in with, you know, the UFC, getting to do the stuff. I'm super fortunate there. I've been lucky enough to find my way into scenarios where, you know, I'm legit friends with guys that we see on TV. I've got to meet. Yeah. I've got to visit with Donald Trump twice now.
I saw the little pictures. I was like, that's so like cool.
Dana is always awesome. Got to shadowbox Mike Tyson walking up to him last year. I seriously confused Kid Rock with Dr. Phil when I met him. They look really close.
You know, I guess everybody kind of remembers that first interaction they had with like a fighter or somebody they like. You know, they see on the TV, like, the first fighter I personally ever met in person, I wouldn't say meet, but, like, got to take a video with was Kevin Holland back at the arena. I thought that was pretty cool that he was, like you said, no one else was doing it besides him.
Kev's awesome. He's great with fans. Yeah. And for us, you know, it's like, he's Kev. Even as well as he's done, Trav and I both 100%, and Kev does too, but we 100% know that he could do a hell of a lot more, right? Yeah. Kev legit is probably the most talented. That's an A-level athlete.
Oh yeah, right? For sure.
If he plays basketball, he's as good as there is. If whatever he wanted to do, he's going to be able to do. So if we keep putting him in the right mindset, I think he could go even further. Yeah. And I mean, he can legit do whatever he wants.
I see it. You know, what's like maybe the biggest piece of advice you give to, you know, let's just say if you could go back to maybe when you were 15 years old, a teenager, give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
Wish I'd wrestled.
Wrestled.
I wish I'd wrestled. But that's just skill-wise, right? If you want to be a fighter, I wish I'd wrestled because that's important.
What about on a life level? Maybe
life level, I would say
that you would give to your kid or something.
You got to set your boundaries. You got to have your values and stick to your morals, and, you know, do what you say you're going to do. Yeah. But the best thing I would say is to make sure you give more than you take.
Give more than you take. Mm-hmm. Okay. You know,
these thugs.
Lastly, there's one question I like to ask everybody everybody comes on my show. You had a chance to give the whole world a message. What would it be?
Oh man, I would say be nice to each other, but spank your kids. Kids are assholes, and asshole kids become asshole adults, and spank your kids so they don't become asshole adults.
What?
And everybody needs to get into a fight at some point. We all need to win a fight and lose a fight at some point in our life to know what we really got going on. Yeah. So get your ass in the gym, go get in a fight in a controlled environment, but the world just needs to be nice and spank their kids.
So be nice and spank your kids. Justin, I appreciate you for inviting me.
Man.
I appreciate you for taking time out of your day.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys so much for watching. We are out later.
Maybe we should call it what